Welcome to What the Friday, your weekly fix of the weird, the wild, and the downright daft. If it makes you go what the f, or laugh when you're supposed to be working, you're in the right place. Let's get stuck in. Frozen methane bubbles in Canada's lakes. Here's the lowdown on those strange frozen methane bubbles you've probably seen popping up all over Instagram from Canada's Abraham Lake. If you haven't, don't worry, because I haven't seen them either. My Instagram is still plagued from all the RIP accidents and shit, but back on track. Imagine, dead plants and stuff at the bottom of the lake get munched on by bacteria that hate oxygen. What's their dinner? Methane gas. Yep, exactly the same cheeky stuff that makes your farts flammable. This gas rises in bubbles, but when winter freezes the lake, the bubbles get trapped in the ice like nature's own bubble wrap. Looks cool, right? But here's the bad news. Methane is a proper villain when it comes to climate change. About 25 times worse than CO2 at heating up the planet. When the ice melts, all that gas escapes and gives global warming a major boost in fucking us up. Not the kind of party trick that we want. And it's not just Canada that has the issue, which in all fairness makes it even worse. This happens in Arctic lakes as well, making the whole global warming situation spiral faster than your mate's excuses for being late. Those bubbles may be pretty, but there's also a frozen warning from Mother Nature saying, fix my shit. And if you ever fancy a laugh, lighting one of those bubbles on fire will show you just how flammable methane is. But don't try it unless you want a bonfire bigger than your barbecue. Blood Falls in Antarctica. I do feel like this one in particular could be a full-on movie title. Blood Falls, Antarctica. However, it's not a horror movie set for some penguin crime scene so you can wipe the sweat from your forehead. Let's picture the scene. You're chilling, literally, at Taylor Glacier. And suddenly you spot this waterfall gushing out from the ice, but instead of a lovely clear water, it's bright rusty red like someone spilled the guts of a giant in Skyrim. It looks like the ice itself is bleeding. But don't worry, it's not haunted. What's actually happening is there's super salty iron-packed water trapped under the glacier. When it finally escapes and it hits the air, the iron reacts with the oxygen and turns red. Just like when your bike rusts after you leave it out in the rain. Science, innit? The catch? You can't just stroll up and take a selfie. Unless you've got a helicopter or a fancy cruise ship handy, it's one of the most remote and bonkers sights on Earth. The next time someone says Antarctica's just a big ice cube, hit them with, yeah, but does your ice cube bleed? Australia's bubblegum pink Lake Hillier. This one is straight out of a PinkiPrim dream. Australia's Lake Hillier. The lake that looks like someone's dropped a giant bottle of pink bubblegum into the outback. Here's the deal. Lake Hillier, over in Western Australia, is properly famous for being bright pink. Not just a bit rosy, full on flamingo in a bath pink. And no, it's not Photoshop or some influencer's dodgy filter, it's all thanks to some party-loving algae and bacteria. These little microbes mix with the salty water and boom, you get a lake that's pinker than your nan's lipstick. The colour's so bold you can spot it from a plane. And it makes you wonder if astronauts are up there thinking, oi, who spilt the strawberry milkshake? Best part, the water's totally safe to touch. You won't come out looking like a flamingo, you have my word. It's a proper bucket list spot for anyone who loves weird nature, so if you're ever in Oz and fancy seeing something that looks like it belongs in a sweet shop, Lake Hillier's your place. Chess playing robot in Italy. In May 2025, Pisa hosted the Festival della Robotica, a proper tech extravaganza where robots and humans mingled like it's the world's geekiest party. One of the main stars, a chess-playing robot that drew crowds faster than a rumour about free beer at your local pub. This wasn't your average silent, soulless machine. The robot had a quirky personality, throwing out unexpected chess moves, a bit of robot sass, and even some cheeky gestures that left everyone in stitches. People lined up to challenge it, only to be outsmarted or outwitted, and sometimes in ways that made even seasoned chess players scratch their heads. The event was all about showing off how tech and entertainment can blend together, and this robot was the talk of the festival. It supposedly went viral with clips of its antics and surprising strategies spreading across social media faster than you can say checkmate. I only say supposedly as I ain't seen it or heard any of my mates saying anything about it. no news outlets, etc. However, it wasn't based in England, but it could have been massive in Italy. The robot's charm wasn't just in winning games, but in making chess feel like a comedy show with a dash of sci-fi thrown in. So, in short, Pisa's festival gave us a robot that could beat you at chess, make you laugh, and probably roast your opening strategy, all at the same time. Now that's a proper Italian showstopper. Unusual Snail Stew Festival in Italy. Alright, let's get into the nitty gritty of Italy's most slippery celebration, the Carrasco Snail Festival in Piedmont. A centuries old bash where snails are the main event and things get weirder and tastier by the minute. This isn't just a couple of locals boiling up a pot. We're talking massive marquees with space for 500 diners, snail shows, cooking demos, official snail conferences, yes, really, and enough snail-themed music and folklore to keep you entertained all night. The highlight? The Snails in the Kitchen event, where top local chefs whip up everything from a snail herb fritter and snail kebabs to snail ragu, snail stuffed ravioli, risotto with snails, and even snails with hazelnuts or sweet red peppers. Basically, if you can dream it, they'll put a snail on it. It's not just about eating either. There are rituals and traditions like in Rome's Festa di San Giovanni, where eating snails is said to bring peace and destroy adversity, because nothing says good vibes like munching on a mollusk with your mates. Back in the day, families would even bring their own snails to the party to make sure they're purged properly. Talk about bring your own. Tourists rock up like it's Black Friday at a gadget shop, all keen to try local delicacies and soak up the snail-themed chaos. And if you're squeamish, don't worry, there's always a bit of wine to help you slide those snails down. So if you ever fancy a festival where the food might literally crawl off your plate, Carrasco's your spot. Who knew the slowest creature in a garden could inspire one of Italy's liveliest parties? Crypto millionaire's torture and daring escape. Alright, buckle up, because this story is more bonkers than a queue for Greggs when I drop a new vegan sausage roll. The saga of the Italian crypto millionaire's kidnap and escape in New York. So picture it. Michael Valentino Teofrasto Carteran. What a fucking name. A 28-year-old Bitcoin whiz from Italy heads to Manhattan for what's meant to be a bit of business and sightseeing. Instead, he ends up starring in a real-life mashup of Wolf of Wall Street and American Psycho. He's lured to a posh townhouse in Nolita, and suddenly the whole thing unravels faster than your mate's five-a-side team after one too many pints. He's jumped by a crew led by John Waltz, a self-styled crypto king from Kentucky who's renting the place for a cool $30,000 a month. They nick his passport and devices, then demand his Bitcoin password. When he refuses, the horror show begins. He's tied up with electrical wire, tased while his feet are in the water, pistol whipped, forced to take drugs, and even cut with a chainsaw. To top it off, they slap an air tag on him like he's a suitcase at Heathrow and threaten his family back in Italy. For nearly 3 weeks, Carteran endures beatings, threats, and humiliation, including being urinated on and dangled over a staircase ledge. The gang takes Polaroids of him tied up with a gun to his head, possibly to extort even more crypto or scare his family. But here's where it gets cinematic. Carteran tricks his captors by saying he'll finally hand over the password, which is on his laptop in another room. When they turn their backs, he legs it, barefoot, battered, and clutching a bag, straight out onto the street, where he spots an NYPD officer and begs for help. The whole escape is caught on CCTV and he's rushed to hospital with injuries that match his grim tale. Police raid the townhouse and find a haul of evidence. Bloodstains, crack cocaine, a chainsaw, body armor, night vision goggles, ammo, and those Polaroids. Waltz is arrested on the spot. Another suspect turns himself in, and the case is now the talk of the New York's crypto scene. So, next time you lose your wallet, just be glad it's not full of Bitcoin and you're not being chased by a crypto king with a chainsaw. Car plows into Liverpool Football Club parade crowd. This one is way more chaotic than Primark having a sale on a bank holiday Monday. Liverpool was buzzing on May 26th, the centre packed with fans celebrating the club's Premier League victory. Parade in full swing, everyone in top spirits. Suddenly, just after 6 PM on Water Street, things turned from party to panic. A car managed to slip past a roadblock by tailgating an ambulance no less, then ploughed straight into the crowd of supporters, sending people flying and leaving utter chaos in its wake. Eyewitnesses described the car weaving through the sea of red shirts, honking but not stopping, and then speeding up as it veered into pedestrians on both sides of the street. Some fans tried to chase it down, smashing the windows in anger after it finally stopped. Police and emergency crews rushed in, rescuing several people, including a child, from under the vehicle. In total, at least 47 people were injured, including 4 children. 27 were taken to hospital with some serious injuries, and another 20 were treated at the scene. 7 people, including at least 1 child, remained in hospital in stable condition days later. The driver, a 53-year-old man from Liverpool, was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, dangerous driving, and drug driving. He's still in custody while detectives piece together what happened. The police have been clear. This wasn't terror-related, just a shocking, isolated incident that turned a day of joy into a nightmare. The city's leaders, the club, and even Everton sent messages of support to those affected, and Liverpool's own celebrations were put on hold out of respect. What should have been a day for the history books ended with sirens and heartbreak. Here's hoping everyone recovers quickly, and that the only things running through Liverpool crowds in the future are the players, not rogue cars. And lastly, we have Palm Springs fertility clinic bomber. This story is wilder than turning up to your mate's barbecue and finding out it's vegan. On May 17th in Palm Springs, California, a massive car bomb went off outside a fertility clinic. The blast was huge. Windows shattered, debris everywhere, and people legging it for cover. The front of the clinic looked like it had been hit by a wrecking ball. It turns out that the person behind it was a 25-year-old bloke named Guy Edward Bartkus. He was seriously against IVF and fertility treatments. Basically, he didn't think people should have kids with the help from science. He even tried to live stream the whole thing and left behind a load of angry rants about why he hated the idea of fertility clinics. Bartkus died in the explosion. He was the only one killed, but 4 other people got hurt. Luckily, they're all okay now, and amazingly, the clinic's lab and all the stored eggs and embryos made it through without a scratch, thanks to the quick work from the emergency crews and the fact that the attack happened when the clinic was closed. The whole thing left the city and medical community in shock, but the clinic says they're not going anywhere. They'll rebuild and keep helping families. In short, one guy, a car bomb, a lot of chaos, but thankfully no lives lost except his own. And the clinic's mission and all those future babies are still safe and sound. Thank you very much for tuning in to this week's What the Friday. Join us next time for even more What the Fuck news. Bye for now.